Hello, my little college grads. It's Carla, and I'm here today in my kitchen to take you on a blast to the past. Today, I am making chickpea and spinach noodle soup. This dish came about when I think I was a junior in college, and I got invited somehow to the cool girls' apartment. And there were multiple of these cool girls. One of them maybe was a TA of mine, and maybe that's how I got the invite and ended up at like the cool girls off-campus apartment, and they were all super cool. We didn't have the phrase imposter syndrome back then. It was the 90s. We did have PC, but we did not yet have imposter syndrome. But thinking back on the way that I felt that day, I was having really intense imposter syndrome. I didn't feel cool. Aww. I didn't know why I was there. But when you get plucked from obscurity into the cool girl's apartment, you go and you do your very best. So we were hanging out. It was a long time ago, guys. I know I look young and everything, but the memory's fuzzy. We were hanging out. Maybe it was a hangout. Maybe there was studying. We weren't drinking. And then at one point, one of the cool girls, whose name I couldn't tell you, made food for everybody and invited me to stay. And I was like, yes, I definitely want to stay, because I wanted to like be there for as long as possible before somebody figured out that I had no reason to be there and was like, why is she here? So she made this dish, and I have such a distinct and crazy flavor memory about it, and it's so nostalgic, and I've never had it since that day, except for last week when I made this to see if it was going to taste like what I remembered. I hadn't had it in all of these years. I had never made it, and I guess because the way that I made it was very seamless, and like I kind of knew exactly how I was going to put it together. Even then, I really like to cook, and I think I must have asked her like, how did you make this? What's in it? Because it tasted so good to me. Either I watched or she told me how she made it, and then with whatever of that memory is real or false, we don't know, but that's the way I'm cooking it. And it tastes like what I remembered it tasting like. It is a dish that you could make literally tomorrow, literally right now. This is a dish that if it was your turn to cook at the food co-op, you would be set and you would make this. This is not fancy. This is super basic. We didn't know really how to do anything, and we only had access to like the most basic supermarket. And I had this thought that like, oh, I'll make this dish from my like very distant memory, and then I'll like do some things to it now that like maybe I would do differently because I know X, Y, and Z, and I did the other thing, and I have these other years of experience. And that felt really wrong and like not true to the memory. So this is, I'm trying to make it exactly the way we would have made it then. So I'm gonna cook it kind of the way I cooked then, which was kind of trying to get the most bang for my buck. So the first thing I'm gonna do is really caramelize these onions, but I'm not gonna caramelize them the way that I later in life learned to caramelize, which is like by sweating them down first and then gradually letting them take on color. Like nobody did that. It's like hot and fast and get it in, and then try to get a lot of color on them so that they had flavor, because there's not a lot of like interventions here in the flavor department. This is the Breville Control Freak induction. It's new. This is kind of bringing me back to like dorm room hot plate. Some people did have like little burners in their dorm rooms. These people had an actual kitchen. They lived off campus, but you can make it on your hot plate with your Murphy bed. Okay, this is another thing. This is another place that I could have done an improvement intervention, because I have some really nice fermented black bean paste in the fridge that I've gotten from, you know, the really good places that import that really nice one, but it didn't have the flavor or the aroma of the Liakumki, which is 100% what we would have been buying in college. And so it wouldn't have tasted right with a better black bean paste. So if you're like, Carla, it's not very good black bean paste, I know. Okay, so a good amount of oil. I used 2 medium onions at the time. I definitely remember it being like one gigantic yellow onion, and they're all going in at once. I feel like a lot of people in college also had electric burners. I know my apartment had a gas burner, and that was like kind of deluxe. A lot of onion, seasoned it pretty aggressively with salt. We didn't really have any spices, so I'm not adding any spices. You know how like aroma and taste memory is so powerful. Like Proust told us all about this. And it is so intense for me. Well, I guess if I smelled like Drakkar Noir, I would also go to that place, but that's like what high school smelled like. The way that the black bean paste smells is like, it's so vivid and it's so intense. That day is just in a like tiny little snow globe of a memory. We're bridging time, space, and other worlds, and the dish, again, with memory, you can kind of do whatever you want, but if it doesn't taste right, it's not going to do the thing. Like if somebody makes your mom's cookies, but they make them wrong, it's not going to do it, and I want to be transported. But if you invited me over that night and by some miracle you're watching this right now, just know that the dish that you made that night like changed my life. All right, we're getting some color. Also, like, what college kitchen didn't smell like a vat of cooking onions because they were like cheap? Smells like burning. That's how you know it's ready. Oh yeah. We were just excited that like something was happening in the pot. And that was like, I'm doing something, you know? Like now I have some burnt onions. Yeah, that's a flavor. Okay, these look actually pretty good. So really caramelized, but kind of floppy in the center, but taking on really nice color at the edges. Maybe some of them are burned, but we're into it because it's like a sweet burning. Okay, this is a can of chickpeas. Love chickpeas. These are just gonna go in, get a little heated up, get a little roasty toasty. It's the only reason I did drink wine in college instead of like beer. I also drank beer. I never did a keg stand though, and I've never shotgunned a beer because I'm afraid of it coming out my nose. But my dad used to take wine that was like, he was like, this isn't good enough for me to drink, and it might be vinegar. And he would, every time I came home for a break, he would pack that up into a box for me. So I would go back to school with like a case of wine, of age, of course. I was legally drinking, but the return rate, it was low. It was low. You had to like open 5 bottles to find 2 good ones. So grown-up me wanted to buy whole tomatoes and either use shears or my hands to break them into pieces. But college cool girl, I don't think did that. So these are diced tomatoes, not in puree. We have like flying chickpeas and going straight in. Wow, this induction cooker is insane. All right, so I'm taking like some artistic liberties here. It's important that this cook, but there's not that much tomato in it. So if I don't add additional water, this is just gonna kind of turn into like a really thick, pasty sludge. Some chili flakes, because flavor, maybe a little salt, and turn the heat down a bit. I'm gonna put a lid on to the side. I'm lowering the heat medium-ish. I just want this to simmer. If it feels like it's going too fast and reducing, but it still doesn't taste great, turn down the heat and let it meld. We need to meld. It's been a little while. We were playing Tetris on a computer. Now we're back. My era was the grunge era, but I was never like truly dirty grunge. I was, as we just decided here, Gap grunge. Some kind of faded out Levi's, some dumb flannel, maybe a tank top underneath. This tastes like something, and I think that's the goal. We don't need to overcomplicate. We have like a bunch of classes that we have to do papers for, and this can't be that complicated. So now that is almost done. I'm going to take some spaghetti, about 4 ounces. And this, I really remember this part because this was the part in the hangout where I saw something happen in the kitchen that was so alarming to me that I wasn't sure I would be able to consume dinner with the rest of the girls. Everything seemed pretty normal up to now. I have brown onions, chickpeas, love chickpeas, canned tomatoes, live for canned tomatoes, all of these things. And then of course the pasta came out and I was like, yes, I'm on the ride. Totally get where this is going. Pot of boiling water, salted. And then the girl who I thought was like, she's my idol at this point. She's like my culinary hero and like culturally just like the coolest person I've ever seen in my life, took the spaghetti and she broke it in half. And because we're honoring our memories and honoring that little girl inside of us all, I'm going to do what she did and I'm gonna break the spaghetti. You've never seen me do this. Ready? Two tiny tears rolled down I was like, welp, I have to leave. And then that was that. Maybe she had to do it so it would fit in the pot because we didn't have tall pots. This is the dish the way that I was taught, and maybe it's bad luck to not do it this way. So now this might be a me intervention, current me, but I'm cooking these noodles for half the length of time that is put on the package because I want them really, 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 really al dente to finish cooking in there. All right, here's where the magic really starts to happen. We've got broken in half noodles that are half cooked. And I'm gonna take them right into this pot with our soupy stew. Look at that. It's so messed up. It's upsetting, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. A lot of people, it's fine. So I wanna be a little bit careful about saltiness here because the black bean paste that I'm using, it's very, very salty. So now the noodles are gonna kind of cook. This is where a sauce becomes a soup. You wanna have a noodle that's not like mushy. These girls were cool. They weren't making mushy noodles. Next thing going in is just a bunch of handfuls of spinach, which was great. We were getting our greens. I did eat a good amount of greens. Also, vegetables were like cheap. Back then you could get a lot of vegetable on a budget, but you couldn't get a lot of meat. So we ate like a lot of bacon and a lot of beans. So this goes in until the spinach just wilts, which is immediate. My brain thinks it remembers that at this point, I was like, that looks pretty good. Essentially, at this point, this is like a shortcut pasta fazool, right? Or like pasta ceci, whatever. I remember thinking, it's done, and that's gonna be totally good. And then she took out the black bean garlic sauce and put like a big spoonful in, and that's when it turned into something that I had never, ever had the taste of that before or since. If you were not sure if you like it, start with 1 tablespoon and you can always add, but it's gonna add this like salty, funky, fermenty, deep, soy, rich. That's the flavor I want. If I used like the really nice black bean paste, it would taste good, but it wouldn't taste right. So this is what makes it taste right. Yeah, it just goes from tasting like fine to tasting like I could eat the whole pot. I'm putting the 2nd tablespoon in because that's how much I like it. So obviously it's like no longer feels Mediterranean because it has now a Chinese condiment in it. Oh yeah. Delish. Tastes so good. It tastes like 1992 in here. That, I love that. I love that. I love that. I love how it tastes. I'm happy that decades have gone by and all the other versions of me have just been like filling up in their Russian dolls inside of me. And this is the same. And it was good for baby Carla, and it is also good for this version of Carla. I sure wish I was surrounded by cool, they were like grungy, gothy girls. They were modern culture media girls. They were like Jacques Derrida, like semiotics, deconstruction, like chill cinema girls. I deconstructed some stuff too. Yeah, I was like feminist, crit, semioticsing everything. Just tear the whole thing down. Tear it apart. The black bean of it all. I don't ever remember being invited over again. I don't think I did anything wrong that night. I think it was just like a moment in time. It gave me this incredible dish that is still good. I'm gonna teach it to my children to make because they should also have the whole arc and the whole journey.
Hey, didn't notice you there. Just Triple H'd up here with some soup. Hot day, hot soup made by hot girls. This is my little test subject here. She's gonna be the cool girls that showed me this hot soup. We're at the party and this is how I'm telling the cute little lady over here that I have to leave even though I like her soup so much. Hi, oh, thanks for inviting me to your party. Yeah, I really like you too and your soup was so good. But I really gotta go. I liked your soup a lot. Please invite me to your parties again. I thought you were really, oh, yawning in my face, are you? Am I that boring? I guess I better leave.
Yeah, Marge.
Good acting, Marge. Good acting. Buy me a drink first, don't you? I guess you made me soup.